Saturday, April 4th, 2020, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today I want to talk about why the flight from fiat currency is universal and where the value or the wealth is going to flow into. Before I do that, just quickly cover what happened yesterday in the markets. In terms of the economy. In Europe, we had really bad service sector data. They dropped massively. Not surprising. There seems to be a lot of surprise in the mainstream press, but I'm not surprised. If you shut down countries, economies, what can you expect? Non-farm payroll in the US, the job data was a lot worse than expected. It dropped by 701,000 non-farm payrolls. I think the unemployment rate jumped back above 4%. Not sure exactly what it was, 4.3. The non-farm payroll number was expected to drop 100,000. And I would say the worst thing about that number was that the survey that is done to bring about that number was done mostly in the early part of March. So that's not a good sign. If they had done the survey for the whole of March, I think it would have been a lot worse, of course. And with that, I'll segue into the main topic today. The flight from fiat currency is universal. What does that mean? Well, it means that investors, the very wealthy, even people like us, are turning away from fiat currencies. What are fiat currencies? Well, there are the national currencies that we use in each individual country. They are imposed by the rule of law through legal tender laws in each individual country. So where is the value going into? Well, it's going into gold, of course, gold and silver as well, but I'm going to focus on gold in this report. Gold has been the most stable store of value for thousands of years. It's been the ultimate money, so to speak, in times of war and crisis. It's been also used as currency, of course. Hasn't been used as currency regularly, I would say, in the West, in Europe and the United States for about 100 years. World War I put an end to that, of course. In the US, it lasted a bit longer until 1933. Yeah, so central banks, countries, they hold quite a bit of gold reserves. And why do they do that? Well, because historically, it's the ultimate arbiter of wealth. It's the ultimate yardstick of wealth. And I think we've been in a bubble, paper bubble, so to speak, fiat currency bubble for too long, and that's coming to an end. Definitely coming to an end. It's difficult to say exactly when we're gonna transition to a new system, but I've made videos in the past, in the last four and a half years, and I even wrote about it back in 2007 when I kept a blog called forsoundmoney.com. Don't have that blog anymore, but that's where I started writing about this. The fact that all fiat currencies are sinking and that they're going to keep sinking. But now I think there's a flight from them. They're not only going to sink, but there's going to be a rush out of them. And I think that's what's going to create the inflation and eventually probably the hyperinflation. Some people think that just because the economies are shut down and no one's doing anything, that all the money printing will not cause a loss of confidence or flight in these paper currencies or fiat currencies. But I warn you that in the past, you look at countries like Germany in the 1920s, Weimar Republic. You look at Venezuela, Zimbabwe, All those countries were in an economic depression when the hyperinflation happened. Their central banks and governments printed trillions upon trillions of their currency units, and you know what it led to. What I'm going to do today is quickly go through a little bit of history of gold, and I took these photos from a book that I have that I highly recommend. I bought it last year, late last year. It's called Germany's Gold by Hirmer, Hirmer. It's actually a book about gold published by the German Bundesbank, the German central bank. I took some of the photos from that book to show you how gold has been so important throughout history. So in the first photo here, you can see that it started out in Lydia, King Croesus. King Croesus was the richest man in the world at the time. And that was 546 BC, as you can see. So over 2,500 years ago. And then you've got the coins here of Macedonian kings Philip II and Alexander the Great established gold coinages that circulated in their entire ancient empire. And then you've got Roman Republic, Marcus Junius Brutus, 44 BC. So the Romans used gold as well. So we go forward. We've got the Byzantine Empire. We've got the Frankish Empire. We've got Florence in the Renaissance, Middle Ages and Renaissance. And we've got also the 19th century Latin monetary union, the gold standard of the 19th century. You can see the different gold coins from Switzerland, France, Italy, and Greece. So continuing with the history a little bit, yeah, I've got a US dollar, $20 gold double eagle there, 1904. And then I've got 12.6 kilo gold bar. That's about 405 ounces. I would say that's what really has been used in the 20th century after World War I amongst countries, central banks. They don't really use coinage, right? So that's a little bit of the history. I think with our monetary system on its last legs, gold will become very important again, and we are seeing that. We're seeing the shortages in the retail market. We're seeing the, how can I say, disorderly market between the futures on COMEX and the LBMA physical market. And I think that's not a good sign. It's a sign that the very wealthy, like Bellin GP, who's made some great videos recently, he's saying that gold is going into hiding. And I think he's right about that. Previously, as I said, I talked about how all the fiat currencies were sinking versus gold. And they have been since the beginning of this century, since the year 2000, 2001. But now I think we're actually going to see a flight away from them. And it's going to be quite a sight. Unfortunately, what it will mean is that things are not well in the world. And we can already see that, of course, with the crisis that's ongoing right now. All the uncertainty. Not knowing, of course, when things are going to get back to normal. So now I want to look at the charts of gold to show you that this is a universal thing that's happening. It's not just emerging market currencies or the pound. It's every fiat currency, including the United States dollar. Yes, the United States dollar has outperformed, but it's going to go the same way. Personally, I've said in the past that there isn't much point in hedging your fiat currency exposure by going over to another fiat currency, i.e., if you have a lot of euros, selling some of them to buy some United States dollar, or some British pounds. My view, for me at least, is that I want to have the least exposure to any of these fiat currencies, the United States dollar included. I don't care about the milkshake theory. I don't care if the dollar index goes up, because as you see by these charts, they're all sinking, or now there's a flight away from them against the money that's been the ultimate yardstick of value, of wealth, the most stable money for almost 3,000 years, right? So I'm going to start with the United States dollar chart of gold. You can see here recently we've had a lot of volatility. And as I said, it's to do with the disruption in the physical market, in the paper market, and it's not a good sign. And you will see, like the dollar, there's only a couple of other currencies that haven't made a new all-time high, but I think it's just a matter of time before gold makes an all-time high versus the United States dollar, or the United States dollar makes an all-time low versus gold. Next one, British pound. The reason I brought the British pound is because I'm in the UK. A lot of my viewers are from the UK. It's not because I think the British pound is the second most important. And all of these currencies that I'm going to show you, fiat currencies versus gold, they're not in any particular order, except for the US dollar, of course, because it's the major reserve currency. So the British pound is the same story. Of course, it's dropped quicker than the dollar, as gold has clearly broken above its 2011 high. We closed around 1320 yesterday. So here's the euro. The euro as well has made an all-time low versus gold, or gold has made an all-time high. Closed just below 1500 yesterday. Chinese yuan. It's one of the other two currencies that I said hasn't made a new low versus gold. And it's strange because we're always told by economists, by presidents, that the Chinese are devaluing their currency, they're manipulating their currency. But compared to all the other fiat currencies, with the exception maybe of the Swiss franc, which we're going to come to in a minute, they've actually not devalued as much versus gold. So yeah, this is quite interesting, I would say, but it's going to go the same way. We will see a new all-time high for gold versus the Chinese currency. So let's continue. So I got the Swedish krona, same thing, Swedish krona. Gold approaching 17,000 versus the Swedish krona. 2011, you can see the high there was around 12,000. So Swedish krona is comfortably sinking versus gold as well. Russian ruble, same kind of scenario. We've gone from just above 50,000. We're now at almost 125,000. Russians, of course, have been buying a lot of gold. The Russian state, they've announced recently, though, that they're going to stop temporarily buying gold. Does this mean that they're not going to buy gold ever again? I don't think so. I think it's just because they're probably having to get rid of some of their paper reserves, and they don't need to buy more gold for now, because the proportion of gold reserves is probably going up in terms of all their reserves. New Zealand dollar, same kind of story. We're almost at $3,000. And you can see that since the '08 crisis, for those who hold gold in New Zealand, they've done very well. So there you go. Australian dollar, yeah, that's moving very quickly. Not a great sign for my Aussie viewers, but hopefully they'll have been protecting themselves by accumulating some precious metals. So we closed at 2,700 gold and Aussie dollars yesterday. Swiss franc. So yeah, that's the other currency I said that hadn't made a new low versus gold, or gold hadn't made a new high. But that one too, we're very close to breaking out in gold. Brazilian real, the country where I was born and grew up in, not surprising. Always had problems with inflation, and that hasn't changed. It's a massive move higher here. So if you have gold or have been able to accumulate gold in Brazil, you're doing quite well. You've been protected, of course. Even though I don't think many Brazilians probably are into gold. Unfortunately, they think the US dollar is a hard currency, so they still go for the dollar quite a bit, I would say. Danish krona, same kind of scenario. I couldn't find a chart longer than 5 years, but you can see that it's moving higher, the price of gold, just above 11,000 Danish krona. Japanese yen, same kind of story. I mean, we've gone from below 100,000 before the financial crisis to now almost 180,000. And we've made a new all-time high. Gold has, of course, versus the yen. Canadian dollar, same story, breaking out, 2,298. Indian rupee, usually don't look at that, but I do get quite a few viewers from India, so I thought I'd look for one of these charts. Same kind of scenario here with the rupee. And last but not least, the Norwegian krona. Again, I could only find a 5-year chart, but the chart says it all. There's a flight from all these national fiat currencies into gold. And the reason why is that the very wealthy, the central banks, even some of us know that gold will be very important. Many people think that looking back in 2000, you had the dot-com bubble burst, and then in 2007-8, you had the banking system almost collapse and the housing market collapse. So a lot of people think that now it will be a currency crisis, a worldwide currency crisis. And that's what it looks to me as well. Just looking at the charts and seeing what gold is doing versus all the national fiat currencies. So it's a universal thing. Value is going to flow into gold and silver as well. I do expect that. And it's going to rebalance the scales from paper being valued too much to value going back to where it should be. It might go past where it should be for a while, but eventually it's going to rebalance. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, BitChute, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great weekend. Take care. Bye.